Internet. I am Chris Reynolds, Senior Developer Advocate at Pantheon. Today on the stream, we're going to be talking about personalization inside WordPress. And to do that, I've got Joe Hoyle on the stream today to talk about what HumanMade's been working on for a while, a plugin called Accelerate. Welcome to the stream, Joe. Joe is the Chief Technology Officer of HumanMade, I guess I should say. And yeah, tell us about yourself and what you've been working on.
Thanks, Chris. Excited to be on. Tout our latest ware, which is our Accelerate plugin. But I guess more generally, I guess I've been working with WordPress for 15, 16, 17 years, something like that. Obviously, HumanMade's whole existence, which is about, I don't know, must be playing close to 15 years.
Yeah.
So done a lot with WordPress, and this is our latest, I guess, foray into building a plugin.
Yeah, and I mean, Accelerate has been baking in the oven for a while. Talk about sort of the journey of like what you were looking for, what you were trying to build, and what I guess because it's gone through a couple different iterations too, right? So like how did it get to be the thing that it is today, and how has it changed over time?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, it grew out of what we had been doing several years ago with a thing called Altis DXP. There was like a digital experience platform, which essentially took WordPress and added a bunch of what is kind of in the industry term DX features around like personalization, A/B testing, and things. Ultimately, that it didn't exactly pan out as a unified platform, but we took a lot of the ideas there of these kind of extra functions that we built on top of WordPress, and some of that span out into what is now the Accelerate plugin, which is just a standalone plugin that anybody can use. The Altis DXP platform, went more in the direction of just being kind of, solid WordPress enterprise host, and then some other bits and pieces also span out of that. So ultimately, it's from our kind of learnings of from technically what we were able to do in the Altis DXP platform, but also we've really tried to simplify as much as possible. So hopefully we'll get stuck into it obviously today, but really hopefully it comes across of what we've built is like very simple, but those building blocks allow a large amount of like possibility and creativity in what you're able to do with the tool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I will bring up my screen over here because I've got a site that has the Accelerate plugin installed. And I'm just
Uh-huh.
going to kind of let you walk me through. Tell me what I'm looking at.
That's a great start. So I guess on the right side, obviously we have the website using the Accelerate plugin, which will probably look like a normal WordPress site. On the left, you have the admin dashboard. So I guess, I'm tempted to take this from the front end first of like, what does it
Sure.
mean that you can do with your site? What does it look like as a user? So right now, you're landed on this site. You have a header, for the site, and then if you scroll down, you have like a latest post block there with the latest post, and then you have like a kind of recirculator internal ad kind of in the footer. So as the user viewing this, then that is how the site appears. However, if you go to the top where it says audience preview there, and then you switch on one of those, so if you put evening, so it changes the page. So that's probably where you will get a rough idea of what Accelerate allows you to do is ultimately personalize and test content on your site, depending on either who is viewing it or on like an A/B test, a kind of randomized assortment. So right now, for example, I've preset up some content on this site for the header, which has 3 different versions of a header. One is based off of a time of day, so that's the evening. Or if you switch to being France, so a geolocation based one, then we have different header for that. And then the default one that you're seeing is what we term the fallback. So if you're not part of any audience that I've kind of chosen what to see, then that's what you're going to get. So that's kind of what we term content personalization. So that is ultimately you want to do multiple variants of either, literally content on pages or site-wide elements via full site editing. and ultimately do different content for different audiences. Could be audiences based off of location. It could be audiences based off of like a marketing campaign. Maybe they clicked in through an email, so now they're considered a certain type of user. You want to change their experience of the site. So that is content personalization broadly, and the example here is the header, but obviously that could be kind of any element of your site. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a couple of other areas here. So what you're seeing in the bottom here, this kind of like internal ad, right? We've got like free skiing or whatever. That is a recirculation module, but if you reload the page, then there is actually like a content queue of different content that is coming in through that slot. So where something like personalization or A/B testing is about testing just the specific content, and you're probably always going to get that variant, at least for that session, because you're not moving countries whilst you're reloading the pages or anything. The broadcast block, which is the way that you can rotate in different content in a given area. And again, it will be measuring the conversion rates of that content for that specific location that you've put it in. So that's another thing that ultimately is, I guess, ultimately bringing the WordPress site to life more, right? Making it more dynamic, allowing you to do different variations of different things. I just got 2 pieces of content in that queue. Another thing that you will see, well, you won't see this, you'd actually have to open up the site in an incognito window, but we also have a A/B test that is running on this page as well. So I think hopefully if you go to the website here, you just scroll down, okay, if close your window and try it again, because you're randomly now getting assigned to different audiences. So actually we've got a 50-50 chance of the site that you're actually going to see. Sorry, of the specific content.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so either on the homepage block here, where it's pushing you through to that other post, or if you scroll down to where the latest posts block is there as well. So this is something that it's not exactly content personalization, right? I haven't had to do 2 versions of that latest post block. We also have a system to be able to do headline and featured image and other testing at the kind of more meta level. So that's actually a test running on that post, right? It's not a test of my homepage. That is a test of me trying different headlines and images. And then wherever that post may be shown across the site in things like latest post blocks or whatever else, then I'm going to see randomly one of those. And again, I've been assigned to a specific audience here. So whenever you reload the page, you're going to get the same one. When you just click through it there from the home page, that is going to be attributed to that version of the A/B test. So obviously we're measuring the performance, right, based off of the click-throughs to the posts. Well, which headline did you come through on? And then we'll surface that. And then when the test is actually finished over a configured amount of days, it'll automatically pick whatever the highest performing one was. So that's a very quick, just kind of like run through a few of the things that I set up on the demo site here, just to hopefully give you an idea of the kind of things that Accelerate is trying to do. It's ultimately around being able to iterate on your content, your designs, and be able to measure the impact and performance of those iterations, and then kind of keep doing that. So that's how it looks for a user on the front end, which is as an individual user, you're probably actually not seeing that much of that stuff, because you're not seeing all the people and what they're getting, apart from the recirculator module at the bottom. If you jump over to the admin, I can just show a couple of things therefore that we have on the analytics to understand how your site is used. So one thing that you will notice when you come onto the Accelerate main dashboard in the admin straight away is we have like a traditional analytics layer. So you get some top level view metrics of your site. You can see data coming in, things like that. We also have this thing that we call a content explorer, which is essentially just a different way to get at your existing content, just as you would go through post pages, synced patterns, things like that. It's just kind of a unified view that is going to give you analytics alongside that. If you jump into something like the header, for example, in this, in the center there, I'll show you exactly kind of what it looks like to be editing this from a content authoring point of view.
Nice.
So hopefully it's fairly kind of obvious what's happening here. I have 3 variants right now. I can click between them to edit different ones of those. And within that editor below, that is just your usual block editor there. So I can change anything that I would want. And at a per block level there, I see the amount of views it has, the overall conversion rate, the conversion rate for each version. So it's very kind of important that not only do we show different variants depending on what audience might be looking at the website, ultimately, if you don't have a way to measure it, there's not really any point in doing that, because you're never really going to know how effective is it that I show a different message to somebody in a different country, or if I have a different call to action for somebody coming from a marketing campaign. You need to be able to track the conversion rate to understand whether that was a good thing to personalize or not. So
Right.
we have a fairly robust offsite analytics layer that isn't stored in the WordPress database or something like that, where we push a lot of user interaction behavior to be able to give editors and site authors like the information that they need to edit. So that's what the experience looks like, whether that's an A/B test or a personalized test at the block level. You can kind of see, hopefully it's a fairly intuitive experience based off already being able to use the block editor.
And then I can see you've got different conversion goals, so you can be tracking different things depending on what you're.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So typically, I think the default would be any like clicking of a link or submitting anything, any kind of event that can happen within the block. By default, that would be considered a conversion, but yeah, you can scope it down there. So that's what it looks like to create personalized content. Maybe you can jump back to the main dashboard, and we could have a quick look at the analytics page in the back end. So we're not we're not Google Analytics. We're not like a full deep analytics suite, but ultimately we do have really good analytics data, because we have to track so many things at the block level as well and at the page level, that we think that we provide a really good out of the box, just like, how do I get analytics on my site for free? Just install this plugin and it's done kind of thing. We already need all of this data for all the personalization stuff. With things like Google Analytics and cookie law and cookie opt-in on Google and things like that, it's definitely providing a kind of anonymized analytics solution out of the box, I think is like a good win, and certainly a immediate benefit that people can get from using the Accelerate plugin. Whereas like personalization and A/B testing, you do need to go and do things, right?
Do the stuff, yeah.
You've got to do the stuff. You've got to write the content. Whereas analytics, we're just obviously collecting from day one, so it's fairly typical of what you would expect. But it does give you an idea. What is my breakdown by countries, by browsers, pages, things like that. So you can start to think about, how can I create audiences? Because ultimately in Accelerate, what audiences are is ultimately a facet of your analytics data. So though we don't show everything here that's in the analytics database yet, something like if you come in through a UTME link to the website, that is stored in our analytics data, and therefore that's how you create a audience based off of that value. So that's kind of how the data pipeline works.
Yeah, tell me about audiences. Obviously, we have to have some audiences if we're going to have different views for different things. So let's pop in there. I'm interested in this because well, I don't see anything.
This is
But
this is just, I think it takes a couple of seconds to load in. So the general idea with
nice.
audiences, again, is like create criteria of the kind of demographic type data that might come in via analytics. So by default, most of it is going to be based off of things that are determined on the front end from the browser. You can certainly like hook into this at a developer level to add other things. Maybe like you would hook in and add some, like, I don't know, has purchased this product via WooCommerce or something, right? Like you could do those kind of things. Or you can have like, the logged in attribute here is like a WordPress, specific, if you're logged in, do X, Y, or Z. So we have generally a bunch of different things that you can facet by, and you can do groups of those. You can do and/ors, you can do, yada yada, all of that Boolean logic to build up your audience of like how you might want. So here, yeah, then I'm saying if the hour is more than 16, consider them part of the evening audience, and that's going to be local time for the user. So that's quite a basic one that's simple to do, but as well as that, you could do, if the referrer includes github.com, consider them a developer. And then maybe, right when I'm writing my my call to actions or something, I might vary those based off of which audience is viewing the site.
And then I guess for country, it's actually telling me this is the percentage of visitors that I'm getting from that country. So in this case, it says France 25% because 25% of my audience is coming from France. So
exactly,
in that way, I can really be targeted for like, oh, I've got a lot of German audience, or I've got a lot of French people coming to my website. I'm going to have this content or this page or this header or whatever, this advertisement that is specific to that group of people.
Exactly, yeah, because there's ultimately not much point putting in a load of effort, maybe targeting Canada here that's at 3%.
Sure.
So a lot of the personalization is kind of like, what is the returns on all of the work that you might need to do to create variations on your content, and how much impact is that likely to have? So there are that's coming at it from purely, I would say, like a performance marketing point of view. There are other use cases where you may want to have more functional things, like if they're logged in, show them this, otherwise show them this. Okay, that's not that's probably you're actually just trying to like use the Boolean logic of the plugin, which it can definitely be used that way. I know that it is used on blog.playstation.com, for example, for the different rating images on whether you're in Europe or whether you're in the US, etc. So again, not really somewhere where they're looking to like maximize conversion rates on those click-throughs of like PEGI ratings or whatever, but ultimately it can be just a tool in the tool belt of how can I ultimately solve the functional problem of like different audiences means different functionality on the site as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to ask about what sort of practical uses have you seen of this sort of stuff in the field, and PlayStation's a really good example because not only the rating system is different, but like a lot of times like the covers for a game in the U.S. is going to be different, or even the games that are available in the U.S. are going to be different than the games that are available in Japan, for example, things like that. And so you might want to have like those images or those titles being different content for depending on the region.
Yeah, exactly. Geo, I would say, is the most obvious one that comes to mind when people start using this. We've had other, I would say, more custom use cases where you're hooking it into the functionality of the site. So, for example, we had a site build where they have like a newsletter sign up box, and if you're already subscribed to the newsletter, right, this is a site where people are logging into the site, so you know whether they're subscribed already, then we've registered that as an attribute of an audience. So then you can target the audience ultimately and then use full site editing, right, to say, well, if they haven't subscribed, show them that widget. If they have, then show them a different widget instead. So there's those kind of site-specific use cases of what is the functionality of your site. Can you actually hook those things in to start making the site a bit more dynamic? What you often would have done right there would be in a traditional theme, right? You're just embedding all of those conditionals directly in your PHP templates. In the world of full site editing, that's actually a little bit different now because all of this stuff is shifted to the admin layer. Doing dynamic things in full site editing is actually a lot more difficult because you need the abstraction to be at the editor and block level. You can't kind of just drop in these quick like PHP one-liner to switch out a different template part or something like that. So we're definitely using it in that like block conditional kind of sense as well.
Yeah. Where is this from a nerdy perspective? Where is this data coming from? Is it all coming from like the HTTP headers that the site is like reading coming in?
Yeah, so virtually all of the analytics stuff is all front end. So it's coming from the brow, like I guess what's it called? Document.navigator or whatever the
Okay.
JavaScript API is. So it's not HTTP headers. It's coming from the navigator. And again, all of the data and everything is all sent through a JavaScript front end tracking, just like many other,
Right.
web tracking type stuff. So for one thing, you're not going to get any data from like just let's say like HTTP crawling bots or something like that.
Okay.
You will from like sophisticated headless bots, obviously they're running a full browser. And
Interesting. Yeah.
also all of the variants that are shown. So if you're doing A/B testing or personalization, it's worth saying again, like getting into the nerdy details here. All of those variants are sent down to the browser, and then it's ultimately the JavaScript layer that chooses which one to show based off of what audience you might be a part of. So
Right.
it means a single cache on your CDN and page cache, for example. So there's no need to have any custom server configuration here. I think Pantheon, right? You're running this with page caching, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. No, we were talking earlier before we hit record, and I was looking under the hood because I wanted to see, like I saw the image changing. I'm like, okay, how's that done? And the way that that's done is, okay, we've got the image that is this one, and then the other one is over here, which is the, I can't really see because it's super small, but like, um, now it's too big. Uh, Um, yeah, so you can see the other images right there. So like basically both sets of content are being downloaded. They're in the browser cache, and it's just you're hiding and showing one specific one depending on what the conditions are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Effectively, there is some nuances there, like when the browser will download those images and things,
Hmm.
it won't literally have to download every image, but ultimately, what the browser is seeing is a custom HTML element, and when it comes to rendering it, the JavaScript is looking up what audience am I a part of, and therefore which one should I pick.
Hmm.
So it means that yeah, no issues for like server caching, server load, or anything. Again, all of the analytics of like when you interact, it's not sending the data to the WordPress PHP side, it's sending the data to our analytics database in the cloud, so to speak.
Yeah, and the other thing that's relevant to our Pantheon audience, I'm using this really old internal page cache sort of like viewer that tells me that it is actually, in fact,
Mm,
cached, and it says
okay,
the age
yeah,
is 915 seconds. And that change, I mean, that stays the same. It's like it's the same page
yeah,
cache depending on the thing. So again, like from a Pantheon perspective, like this is still just coming from the edge, and it's
right.
like cache. You're not gonna have like, oh, there's this one variant and there's a cache tag for that one, and there's a separate variant and there's a cache tag for that one independently. It's just one set of
Right,
cache. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I would say there's one small exception to this, which is for anybody, really astute, might be wondering how we do geolocation, because that is
Mm-hmm.
not a thing that you get in the browser. So we have our own separately hosted endpoint that essentially will do a geo IP lookup based off of the IP address that is requesting. So
Okay.
when you request our JavaScript library drop-in, that's also going to inject as part of that response, here's the country that you're coming from as the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a little bit of, clever GeoIP stuff in the mix there, but again, it's not running on the server of the WordPress site or anything. So it's a scalable solution from that point of view, right? Like if you've got a site with many millions of visitors, then you're not going to be bogging down your WordPress site with that. So that, yeah, it's definitely an important design goal for us.
Yeah. Um, what else? What else we got? What else we have under the hood? Like, we talked
Um,
about like blocks specifically a little bit, or you mentioned
yeah,
them.
yeah. So that's like blocks is how you're going to do your different variations of things. Audiences is going to be how you're going to target them. If you can drop into one of those pages there, you can kick me out of that demo page for personalization one.
Take over.
So this is effectively just showing the same thing that you would have seen on the homepage, right? I
Hmm.
have a embedded synced pattern. Synced patterns is actually how we do this content personalization thing. So there's three variants within that one, but you can obviously just drop those in any way you can show a synced pattern. So that's really what we're showing here. It'd be quite typical. maybe you have a marketing page, like a landing page that's quite a fancy layout design, and you want to have variations of some elements within that page, for example. So that's how you can do that. Yeah, so the block here all come under the I think that's the sync patterns that you're showing. Core keeps changing where it shows sync patterns, but it's I called the sync pattern header confusingly. So it's also the name of a template.
Yeah,
There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I also have some other sync patterns in there as well.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I could probably quickly show is the broadcast block on how that is managed.
That is a block. Yeah.
Yeah, but sorry, you'll need to jump back
In
to
the
the main
site
admin
editor.
in the accelerate sidebar.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so there's
broadcast.
this.
There we go.
That's how we're managing this content queue. So I have a footer
Yes.
recirc broadcast here,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can see the two different pieces of content that I'm recirculating through. So any synced pattern can be inserted as a circulation piece of content. And then if you went to the site edit into the footer, that's where I'm putting in the broadcast block. So there has to be like two levels of abstraction here. I have the broadcast block with all of the different options in it, and then I need to put the broadcast block somewhere. And that is in, if you go to template parts, I think it is in the site editor, which is confusingly under patterns. Yep.
Footers.
Footer, I guess, is it just the main footer maybe? I think if you click, oh yeah, no, it's.
No, I'm at. Wait, is that it?
It's definitely. I think you can. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, yes, you can see that I have the broadcast block embedded there, and that's showing me. And I think that will bounce you through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll take you back to the screen that we were on. So that's how broadcast works again in situations where you kind of got a content queue or internal ad network. You can kind of think of it like that as well, which is like, okay, if the user didn't click it, once, let's show them something else the next time they view the page, kind of stuff.
Yeah, or like an alternative to the dreaded scrolling like slider in your header or something.
Carousel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we have. So that's really like, I would say there's a few primitives there around how we do synced patterns and the analytics, and then broadcast, and then being able to convert sync patterns into either A/B test or personalized. That's really everything that there is. But hopefully you can kind of see, once you combine that with the block editor and full site editing, you actually now have quite a lot of different options of how those things can be combined, how those blocks can be combined to create a site that is ultimately a bit more dynamic, or a lot more dynamic, depending how much work you put in, based off of the different types of users that are using the site. And that's ultimately the design goal, is to be able to allow for that kind of dynamic nature of the WordPress site. I will say that, to go through the effort of doing that, you kind of do need a website with a good amount of viewership. Otherwise, yeah, you are putting in a lot of work. On my personal site, there may be like 5 people visit a month.
Right.
It's not really worth me, A/B testing my headlines.
Sure.
So there's definitely kind of a certain scale where this makes more sense, I think,
Well, I'm going to take this a little bit personal because, Joe, I have a problem that I discovered because of having the Accelerate plugin installed. And the problem is, make my window a little bit bigger too. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Is that I discovered that I have a great deal of traffic that is coming from China that is definitely not the normal traffic of my site.
Yeah. Except China, that's about like what my website looks like as well.
And so my site is just a normal blog. It just has some stuff. It's got I do DevRel stuff, so I have like all presentations and stuff that I've given and things like that. So cool. nothing super special, but I happen to update, accelerate, log into the analytics page, and I saw this big thing from China. So I created an audience for China, and then everything except China,
Okay.
so that I can go into here and look at my
Ah,
analytics and basically see this is what I would expect.
yeah,
This is the
okay. This
traffic
is
that
your real.
seems normal.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but now that I have this audience for China, what sorts of things could I do either through the plugin itself or even maybe with code that would like with like this China audience that I have. So these people that are
Mm,
coming from China that I assume are probably robots because my site isn't
hmm.
written in Chinese. Like, I could probably use put a header that is only visible to China and like say maybe even in Chinese, hey, robot, like what do like have a special message for them? Like
Yeah.
what sorts of things could I do now that I've identified that sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah. So you could, if you wanted to, it depends if this is a problem that you feel like you want to combat or something where, maybe there are some, maybe you do have a genuine audience from China that you never knew about. You never know. So it could prompt you to do some actual personalization for China. Do something like, hey, if you're Chinese, let me know here if you want to understand my site or something.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can definitely segment that way. Like you said, I mean, you could maybe if there were things on your website, I don't know if you had sensitive things on there or just, I don't know, for whatever reason, right, content that you wanted to restrict, you could use Accelerate for something like that. It's obviously not like the most secure way of achieving that because it is
Sure.
ultimately all a kind of front end tool. But I think, yeah, the most obvious thing to me would be to have a big banner to say, like, please stop scraping my site or something.
Is there like is there a code level like hook or something that I could do that would basically allow me to like for those China visitors give them like a redirect to some other page or a different like google.com or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have documentation on how to like hook into our it would be a front end JavaScript based hook, right? Because again,
Hmm.
everything is essentially running on the client here.
Right.
So there you would basically hook into we have a little thing that fires every page load. This is the data for the user, and then you could check their country and then change their, document.location or whatever and do it at the code level. So on accelerateplugin.com, we have documentation linked, I believe, in the header there. And that is, maybe it's actually in the footer. Maybe we relegated the importance of the documentation.
Documentation.
There we go. Yeah. So that's something where we are kind of as more use cases and questions emerge, like integration with the WP Consent API, for example, and yeah, analytics integration, things like that, we're kind of adding those as additional kind of guides. So the more that we hear from people on how they're looking to use this or questions that they have, then we're trying to kind of bake that into our docs and have it be useful for more people ultimately.
Awesome. Yeah. Um,
First time I've seen that specific, problem though of having like all of this, I don't know,
well,
traffic
and
that you didn't want.
yeah, as I'm looking at it, there seems to be a lot of hits to WP sign up for some bizarre reason. So,
Okay, which presumably doesn't even exist on your site because it's not multi-site. I know it
oh, it
is
is
multi-site.
multi-site. It is
Okay,
multi-site.
okay.
Well, thanks a lot. I mean, I think that's really awesome. I'm super impressed. Like, I've obviously watched this plugin develop for quite a while.
Hmm.
For those of you at home, I Joe used to be my boss. I used to work at Human Made, so
You've seen
I've
this
seen
being
this
noodled on for
evolve
a
over
while.
time, and I've seen a couple different incarnations of it. So I definitely noticed when it changed, and I really do like.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of the base level, like the analytics, like just by itself. I mean, there's a lot of analytics plugins out there,
Right.
and like you can and some of them are Google, and some of them hook into Google, and some of them, like, there's, Jetpack has its analytics thing and whatever, and they all kind of
Yeah.
approach it in a slightly different way. But I really like, like this actually gave me valuable information in with like a couple clicks that I don't know that I would have gotten. I mean, I
Hmm.
could have gotten that stuff from Google, and I could have gotten that stuff
Yeah.
probably from Jetpack, but like I could do that in like 5 minutes, whereas I don't
That
like I'd
that
have to
that's I mean,
refer to documentation to do it in Google.
yeah. That's kind of the thesis of the whole tool, to be honest, is like anybody that's watching this that is like a marketer or a performance marketer or something is not going to be wowed by like, oh wow, I didn't realize I could run an A/B test or something, right? Those
Hmm.
tools have existed, and like frankly, the suites for those tools are really powerful, and you can do way more than you can do in Accelerate. But the problem is, it's like it's not close by. It's not something that is just like plug and play, click install, ready to go. I don't need to set up a complex integration. I don't need to log into several tools. Really, the idea of Accelerate is more like a, dare I say, use the WordPress buzzword, a kind of democratization play, in that like you need to spend quite a lot of money to set up something like Optimizely, or a full kind of enterprise suite like that. And then what you also get at the end of the day is still a very cumbersome process. Whereas really what we're trying to do with Accelerate is just have it be install it. If you're in the block editor, you're going to be ready to go. If you're using full site editing, it's even better, because obviously you just get all the same primitives at the full site editing level, and you never have to go to another tool. And you don't need to write your variations for your headline in a different tool, right? Those things should be in the CMS. That's where you're writing, that's where
Right.
you're building your pages. Whereas I've seen literally demos from other tools where, yes, you have your main version of the page there, but then you've got
Right.
5 versions of the page in a separate tool where you don't have any of the WordPress functionality.
Right. Right.
So I think that it's just about bringing the things together. And like you say, analytics is just that. It's just like, well, it's right there on the dashboard. When you're viewing your synced pattern that you're making, you're seeing the views there over time. You're understanding, is this an important piece of content? Because I have the data right there in front of me. I'm not flicking and not building reports in Google Analytics or something. So while those tools are way more powerful than what we have, hopefully the kind of at the fingertips, useful when you actually need it nature that we're trying to do with Accelerate kind of like actually balances out to be a net plus. And on top of that, it's like it's free up to like 1 million views a month as well and things. So like it's
Yeah.
free is always good.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously this tool has come out of your sort of professional services experience in the field, working as an agency with companies and organizations who need stuff like this. Are there any sort of like success stories or interesting things that you can share about like sort of what like that this or tools like this have enabled or unlocked or things like that for people that you're working with?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so there's definitely the type of situation where like to use it is an agency, and then there is kind of like probably the 80% of your more standard, let's say, setup. So we definitely see on the agency side, we're working on stuff where it's going to be more custom, like I kind of mentioned on PlayStation using it. Another site that is using it is Recipe Tin Eats, that has a lot of traffic, let's just say. I think they're within maybe the top 10 recipe sites in the world or something. So we had to engineer this to work at that kind of scale. So
Hmm.
I think that's kind of hopefully a balance that we've been able to strike, is it works on very big stuff, but we've tried to make it simple enough to use for anybody. And that is why it's valuable as well at the enterprise level, is like enterprise technology is not always the most usable, and that's ultimately why WordPress is relatively successful in enterprise, is like
Hmm.
it's the easy tool that people kind of know how to use. And if they don't get too bogged down with kind of like millions of checklists of what the software needs to do, WordPress is a good option. And that's just the same balance that we have kind of with Accelerate, is like we're not trying to be better than an enterprise performance marketing tool, but where it actually kind of gets used is in the situations where it's going to be like, we're going to migrate to the Adobe suite for analytics in 1 year. So then we're going to do personalization, right? Typical client thing is to do a site build, and then they've got some plan down the road to introduce these things that Accelerate has. So it's just kind of like, well, let's just use Accelerate now then. And then obviously that thing down the road never even happens because it never kind of does in enterprise tech anyway. So it's always a thing on the future roadmap, right? So that's where we've seen success with it is we're not trying to convince an organization that needs to be their personalization platform for their whole team and everything, because it's not that. What it is a tool that works right now that allows your web team to actually get stuff done right now and not have to wait for that kind of like future big platform. And in our experience, it's kind of filled that gap pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like the example of a recipe site because I can already think of like 5 different things that Accelerate would be useful for in that context, from A/B
Right.
testing headlines to like maybe different images to all sorts of things. We do have a question coming in from LinkedIn: Is Accelerate only for WordPress sites? I think the answer to that is yes. Human Made is a WordPress agency. Are there any thoughts about like, or are there things that could be extracted or maybe shared from like a service perspective? That Accelerate kind of hooks
Yeah.
into?
Yeah, so there's kind of two sides to that. One is we have seen situations where you have Accelerate on your main WordPress site, and maybe there's a couple of like micro sites or pages that are just hosted on something else, and it would be valuable to unify the data of those things. So just drop our JavaScript embed essentially on one of those other sites and make sure that the data is centralized between those. So that is possible, but ultimately, because our whole, well, I actually want to write personalized content, now that's all got to be in WordPress. So like if you're not on a WordPress site at all, no, don't go for Accelerate. Again, that's kind of like, that is the point really, is like, this is a WordPress solution, and though general purpose solutions are very powerful and everything, the integration point is just, in my experience, really painful. So we've ultimately just accepted the trade-off there. It's like, we're going for the WordPress people who have got WordPress sites that don't really want to leave WordPress. How can we make something good enough for them?
And I've got one other question that came in from LinkedIn as well. Any plans to integrate with CDP platforms?
Yeah, so CDP platform, customer data platform, which is generally your big business, and you use terms like data lake and data warehouses, and like all of your customer data just goes into this, kind of black box. How could you integrate with something like that for the website? That's kind of, I think, what the question is getting at here. So yeah, we definitely do have, there are ways that you can already do that at a code level, right? I kind of mentioned we have like developer APIs that would look something like, when the browser is gathering the information that it has on the current user, right? It knows the time of day based off of, the date in the browser, right? You could ultimately pull information from a CDP and feed that into the same pipeline. So then I can go and create personalized content based off of attributes on the user that may be in my CDP. That's the general flow. So we don't have any like plug and play adapters right now for specific CDPs, but the lower level is there, and we're still looking to ultimately work on a kind of case by case of like, let's do a specific integration when one arises that there's something tangible to do
Right.
with, because quite what often happens with customer data is it's very like high level, move the data, put the data there, connect the data, yeah, great, sharing my data or whatever, but like, what is the actual user journey, and what specific data would you use, and when could you use it? Because if I just open my iPhone now and go to your website for the first time ever, though I might be in your CDP, it doesn't mean that there is a way to meaningfully link me right now. So there's all kinds of practical challenges to do with, good things around data privacy and third-party cookies and why it's difficult to do all those things. So there definitely can be a tendency to look a little too high level in terms of connecting data and targeting users and things like that, right? If I go watch something on Netflix and then I go on it on my phone on Netflix when I've never visited before, I'm not logged in. Well, I'm not getting any personalization, right? There are a lot of limitations around what you can do with customer data. So I would say the devil is in the details when it comes to any kind of CDP or CRM integration. Is you kind of do need to be able to drop a step lower. We usually have to talk to clients, okay, what are you specifically looking to do? Where is that data? How do you identify users to understand how that could be achieved? Because, yeah, there's one thing kind of having the idea, there's another thing being able to build it into the product.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and focusing on the outcome that you're actually going for, particularly with personalization, is probably, the most important thing, because personalization is hard
Yeah.
enough as it is. I mean, that's a thing that I know that you all have been looking at for a long time. Pantheon's been looking at it for a long time, and the problem with personalization is like what you said. Like, there's a lot of work involved. So, like, if you don't want to spend a ton of work on something without knowing that it's actually valuable work.
Right, exactly. It's kind of a tricky one because it can be that, like, the marketer's dream is just to know everything about everybody, right? And then, like, sell as much stuff to them, right? And then the kind of like user's dream is often just like, I want to stay anonymous and don't want to have kind of anything specific targeted towards me. So, we're definitely trying to play as much as we can on the privacy side of this, right? Like, we're not doing anything untoward of trying to like circumvent the user in terms of the data that might be held on them, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think there is always a bit of a tension there ultimately between more data is better ultimately from a marketer's point of view, and less data is better from the user. And you definitely have to strike the balance. And there are certainly like ways that you can overstep that line, and you definitely have to be careful. It's definitely something that is important to us, like I mentioned on the documentation, right? Integration we've had with the WP Consent API from day one, because that is just a key thing. I mean, not only for like regulation and stuff in Europe, but ultimately we want to be playing nice and respecting the privacy tools that are in place and choices of users.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and anyone who's watching this, you can go find the Accelerate plugin either on accelerateplugin.com, which we talked about earlier, or just in the WordPress.org repository. Where can folks find you if they want to find you, Joe Hoyle, specifically?
Yeah, you can go to my website with Accelerate on, with about 5 people visiting a day, which is joehoyle.co.uk, though that's kind of changed into a website about woodworking. But I'm sorry to say I am still on Twitter as Joe_Hoyle. That probably is the best way to contact me.
Well, awesome. I'm definitely going to go play around some more with Accelerate on my personal website. I hope all of you watching either live or in the future check it out on your website. Thanks, Joe, for coming on to the live stream. And for everyone else, thank you for joining, and we'll see you on the internet.
All right. Thanks very much for having us, Chris.
Yeah, no worries.